I myself, the producer of this podcast, is not eligible to diagnose anyone with a mental health disorder. This podcast is purely for artists discussing the mental health hurdles they struggle with on a daily basis. Enjoy. So have you ever gone to therapy? Are you in therapy? What are your thoughts about it?
Well, can I just tell you, first of all, Chris, that I am really happy to be here with you.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for asking me to be on your podcast. It's really thrilling.
I appreciate that. Yeah, no, it's so most of the people I've interviewed are people I've worked with or I've known.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a mixture of people who I would post this topic on Facebook and they would reach out to me.
Nice.
But you were the first guest that I was like seeking to be like, all right, I read your article, or I saw this article about your work. It's titled "The Sea That Surrounds Us," and at the time, I was trying to like, because you said it released in 2016, right?
Yeah.
Or you released it in 2016.
Yeah.
And at the time, like, I think my feelings and I'll just say it, like my depression has gotten, I think, not worse as I get older, but it's gotten more intense. So like, I guess at that time I was like really, when you did portraits of your husband and portraits of like you had the ocean. I know you had like, I don't know what type of grass it was, but it was like a field. And then, before I came on here or before I was going to come to record, I revisited the article and the piece because and it was like, how you describe, I think one article said like you described it as, like, you want to capture like kind of like the emptiness of the earth. I don't know if that's the right words. I'm trying not to sound like an idiot in front of you, but like the emptiness of the world. And then it cuts back to like, shots of your husband and I was like, that's now I think now I get it more at 34 than I did when I was 28, 29 when I first read it.
Yeah, sure.
So but I say all that because I was like, when I read that, that article has always stuck with me.
Right.
So then when I was putting this together
wonderful.
in the summer of 2021, I was like, I need Maureen.
Yeah.
Maureen. How do you pronounce your last name? Drennan?
Drennan, yeah.
All right, cool. I didn't want to butcher it.
Yeah.
I just knew I kind of had to have you on the podcast. It was a shot in the dark, and you responded back to email, and you're like, Instagram is fine. I followed you. I think once you responded back, like, yes, I'll do it. I went to Instagram immediately and started following you. But no, thank you very much for all the kind words, and every exchange we've had has been nothing short of like just really kind and nice. And I know like it took a while for us to schedule because we're both busy, we're both working artists. So if anyone doesn't really know much about working artists, your schedule is everywhere.
Yeah. You have two jobs.
Yes,
basically.
Exactly. So, but yeah, I appreciate your kind words.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, have you gone to therapy? Are you currently in it? What are your thoughts about it?
I am currently in therapy. I've been in therapy since Election Day 2020.
Oh wow!
So
okay.
it was like
That's my birthday, November 7th.
Really?
Yeah. So I started therapy 2 months before you did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was a real touch and go day because everyone thought that.
Yes, it really was a touch and go day.
People didn't know who.
I hate my birthday being on the election day because everyone. I have a mixture of friends who vote both sides. I don't.
Sure.
I try not to. Personally, I try not to make a big deal of like who people vote for. I try to kind of keep an open mind because I don't think who you believe in and who you follow in is defines like who you are. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's like trying to ignore half the people are saying.
Yeah.
And just trying to have a good time on my birthday.
Yeah,
on my birthday.
That's tough. Tough.
But no. So you said you started election day.
So I started election day 2020.
Had a lot to talk about, I'm sure.
Yeah, a lot to talk about, and it was on the phone. So, we didn't do Zoom because I teach at LaGuardia Community College. So during COVID, starting in March of 2020, I'd been teaching online. So I was online teaching and then meetings for, 2 years. And I was so tired of like Zoom. I don't like Zooming anymore. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
And so I was like, can we just do it on the phone? And she said, yeah, that's fine.
There's such thing as Zoom fatigue, which I didn't know. Yeah.
I didn't know either.
Yeah.
I mean, who knew?
I don't think anybody really knew prior to COVID.
Yeah.
So you did it over the phone,
So
which is very interesting because my therapist wants to see my face.
Interesting.
So even if it's not, it's through her company's website and virtual, like a virtual, or she's like, oh, this is not working. We could FaceTime. There's been times where I'm like, I'm on the road. Like, can we just call? And she's like, no, we're going to have to see. So we'll reschedule. I'm like, oh, all right.
Have you met your therapist in person?
No.
You haven't? So I met mine in person. So I started in November 2020, and then I finally met her in person in December 2021.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it had been a year and a month, and I was so excited. It was like meeting a relative that
I don't think I would go. I think going to therapy in person, I would be a little bit more hesitant to do it. I think that barrier of the internet, or the screen, let's say, I think that is my like safety net. And I don't know how open I would be if it was in person, because it's a lot more awkward. Like, I'm not really I'm not that good at, like, when I'm talking to someone, eye contact. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a self-conscious thing. I really don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So with my therapist, I probably would be just like looking around, like ignoring everything in person. And online, though, like there'd be times where I was still like kind of like during my sessions, like working, and she's like, I need you to like just tell your work that you're on lunch.
Yeah.
And, so there'd be times where I would take my call on my phone in my bedroom versus my work computer. But yeah, no. So did you go to therapy before that at all? Like when you were a kid or a teenager?
Yes. So I went to therapy in around 2010 when my husband was experiencing this depression that I made the project about. So I went to therapy, but it wasn't as successful as the therapist I'm going to now. And I'm not so sure. I think it's the therapist.
Yeah.
I think the person that I'm going to now is just really experienced and very compassionate.
There's an episode I have. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's just so helpful to have the person be your advocate.
Yeah,
and that's how this person feels.
There's a artist I was talking to in one of the episodes in this podcast where she said that she went to therapy 3 different times and the therapist it was never a right fit. And that's actually interesting that you say that like the first one wasn't a right fit, but now this one is, or the one afterwards is like you were excited to meet them in person and it was a really, really good fit. So that's really interesting that you say that, because I went to therapy a little bit when I was a kid, with my family, and then by myself. And as a kid, you're just like, I don't want to fucking be here. Like, so you're obviously not going to be more open-minded. But coming into this one, I felt like, I'm about to get married. I just went through like a lot of health issues. We're in the middle of a pandemic that said that there was only going to last 2 weeks. So I was kind of like, I was a little more open-minded, but I was very shelved off and reserved at the time. But now I can't live without it, honestly.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
And everyone's goal is like to get out of therapy and like be able to function without it. But I'm like, if I could be in therapy for years, I
think that's fine.
Yeah, I'll be fine,
Whatever helps you to deal with stuff that happened in your past, to have better coping skills now, to have just to be able to live more richly and fully and not carry around all this baggage.
Yes. So you said your husband was dealing with depression in 2010. Did it really like?
Yes, 2010.
It feels weird asking
about
him without him, but so has he always experienced depression, or did it come on like you said, like 2010, which is crazy to think it's 12 years ago already.
I know,
but
right?
Is it like what were the first, I guess, signs that you noticed with it, and did it affect you in any way? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it affected me very deeply, because this was a person who hadn't experienced depression before and who hadn't gone to therapy. And so after we went to grad school at the same time, but to different graduate schools, and there's this, I don't know if you had this, I mean, a lot of people have this experience where the community at graduate school is very tight and fun, and it can be collaborative, and it's this really kind of special community. It's you go through a lot together.
The film scene is like that. I went to college, and I didn't go to graduate school, but I got my BFA in digital film and video, but film is very cliquey. So if you do feel kind of like out of it, there's been times since COVID I've seen some of my friends do films together, and I'm like, guys, why aren't you asking me? You know, and it feels weird, like even saying that out loud and feeling that way, because it's like I'm never gonna ask them like, hey, why didn't you invite me on set? Because I feel like I'm gonna sound like a jealous ex.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of like, well, you're doing your thing, all right, it is what it is. So I could see where, I guess graduate school could be cliquey.
Well, I don't know if his was cliquey, but it was certainly very close knit. And I mean, I'm sure there were cliquey situations, but when graduate school ended and we both graduated, all of a sudden that built-in structure and community is just gone. And so you've got to work to create that community. Which is not easy to do, especially as an artist. You have two jobs. You have your job where you make money.
Yes.
And then you have the job where you're making the arts. And so you're doing it for the love or the money. And most people do it for the love.
Yeah.
You don't make money necessarily.
You really don't.
As an artist.
Yeah.
And so, or not enough anyway.
No.
So I think that was a huge part of it. I think all of a sudden there was this weekly structure of seeing people and critiques and working on your work. And all of a sudden you graduate and it just ends.
It ends and you got to move on and try and adapt to whatever new lifestyle you're going to be. Because, people who graduate from college with an art degree or in the arts, it's not like, all right, you graduate on a Thursday, Monday you're going to find a job that has the same structure. No, it's more so like, all right, I have my whole afternoon free. Like, what am I going to do right now, So, that definitely affects it, I'm sure.
Yeah, right.
I'm sure.
So, it was very much tied into, I think, feeling lonely also. Because of not having that art community anymore, feeling kind of directionless in his art making. And so that crept into every other aspect of our lives together. Yeah,
that's kind of talked like, so the first episode of this, it was my wife's idea. She's like, well, why don't I like interview you about like why you wanted to do this?
That's such a good idea.
It was, I gave her credit for that for sure. And she wanted to kind of expand upon and talk about like how it is to live with an artist. Because she and nothing crazy like that, but just like the ebbs and flows of feeling very high about something and then feeling extremely low. Like when a film project ends, when I'm done with a film project, I'm very depressed.
Yes.
Or not, I shouldn't even say that word, depressed, but I am very upset and sad. Yeah. Low. Like I want to be doing this all the time, but now I got to go. But I love my day job. I really do. I love my 9 to 5, but still it's just the fact that you're going back and you might not be as creative in your day job where you're like around like-minded people, having a good time, most likely, depending on the subject, laughing all the time. So it's very, I could see where your husband, and if you ever felt that way too, like feeling that, and I think a lot of artists go through that. So what we're talking about today is the sea that surrounds us. What did you shoot on, by the way? What do you shoot on? Film?
I use I use a Mamiya 7 and a Mamiya RZ, which are medium format cameras, and so I shoot on film.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
you don't see that a lot now. I shoot digitally, and I feel like a fraud when I'm like photography, and it's like digital, and then Lightroom, and like people who shoot and like make movies on film. It's a lot different than. It's a lot different than shooting on digital, And have you shot on digital before?
Oh yeah. I do shoot on digital a lot, especially if it's an assignment or a commission or something like that. It's a good sort of drawing. I think of it as like a drawing, like a sketch pad, because I can take a lot of pictures with digital. It's virtually free. All I'm paying for is storage. And then I just put the card into the computer and then see what I like, don't like. Maybe I'll go back and photograph it with film. Film is just, it's expensive.
Yeah, I could imagine.
Yeah.
I hear that so much.
But it is beautiful.
I would love to shoot on film. I don't even know where I would start.
And color and
I don't even know what camera to get to shoot on film and then get the film, but I would like to try it one day.
I can give you advice on that.
Yeah, definitely.
It's another podcast.
Yes, exactly.
Like a gearhead podcast.
Yeah, gearhead. I love that. I love talking to someone who knows about equipment, because half the time I'm like, because I don't even know that much about equipment, but like, yeah, gearhead. Like you hear that term all the time. And if I said that to anyone else, they're like, "Wow, gearhead? Like what was it? Like football gear, basketball gear?" It's like, no.
Cars.
Yeah, cars or anything like that. So before we do get into that, I would like to ask, how long have you been doing photography? Like what initially got you into photography? Mm-hmm. Like what age did you start like really taking it seriously?
Yeah. So I started sort of late in life. I was working as an archivist at in a photo archives, and part of my job was to scan old slides and catalog them. Okay. Basically, give them a number, a catalog number, a description.
Is that fun?
No.
Okay. I didn't want to disrespect it without asking you that first.
All but for some, I think it's really fantastic.
Did you ever see the movie Secret Life of Walter Mitty?
No.
With Ben Stiller. I think he works for Time Magazine, and what you're describing makes it seem like he goes through like photos and picks which one is which, and then a photo goes missing that they want, and it's like he's searching for the guy who has the photo.
I haven't seen it. I'm embarrassed to say.
No, you don't have to. It's a beautiful film. It's not like a real popular one. It's just, I love Ben Stiller, and it's not his typical like goofy stuff.
Right.
But no, I was wondering if that's what that was.
I don't know the movie, so I don't want to. Okay. I don't know. But so when you work in archives, basically you are preserving old materials, and that includes documents, negatives, objects, and so my job, and I was very low on the totem pole at the archive, was to scan negatives and put in information.
If you don't mind me asking, how old were you when you were doing this? Were you a teenager?
No. I was 30.
Okay.
Yeah, I was getting a master's in library science and archives and archival studies.
Yeah.
So it's called a MLS, so Master's of Library Science. And I thought it would be a really great degree because it would be super practical and that I could get a job anywhere. And as it turned out, you can get there are many jobs, but it wasn't for me. I'm just a lot more like, I want to be around people.
Yeah.
So it didn't suit my personality so much, but for
others, have a really awesome person. I showed up to your apartment. You greeted me as if I was somebody. It was really no. I'm just saying, like you were like, and then you said like, yeah, I was asking people if they were Chris, and they're like, no. But that's really nice because most people, like I said, I never met you before, so your personality is very. I don't know. It seems very infectious in a good way. Like you have a really good personality. So I couldn't imagine you being like in a dark room, just like working on photo. Like I couldn't see you doing that.
Yeah, it didn't hold me.
Yeah,
but
and did it even inspire you at some point?
Well, that's the thing. Okay. Looking at the old negatives, so you'd scan them, they'd come up on the screen, and then I was really smitten because the first project I ever did was old mugshot photos from like the 1940s. Oh my God, those were awesome. Incredible.
That must have been awesome.
Yeah, it was incredible.
That must have been so cool.
And so that was actually very inspiring, and I realized.
Did you notice it? Like, were they famous people's mugshots or just mugshots?
No, just ordinary people.
Which still look very interesting, I'm sure.
So
after you had your job as an archivist, what inspired you to like?
So,
you said mugshots, right?
Yeah. So I was scanning these old mugshots from the 1940s, and they were extraordinary to look at. I mean, the level of detail in the photography back then. I mean,
which is interesting for like something that I guess for me, I wouldn't assume it would require so much detail. because it's a mug, like it's a shot before you go into prison.
Yeah.
So like, how much is someone? All right, yeah, let's the lighting here. You know, like how much really is going into it. But you were saying the detail is phenomenal.
I think it was because they used large format cameras. So it's a large camera with a big negative. So if you have a big negative, you have a lot of detail.
Yeah.
So that you see all this detail in their face. And then I started taking photo classes. So I already had a master's in library science and I was working, but I wasn't in love with the career whatsoever. It was just a means to an end. I was like, okay, I need something that's going to be stable, like a consistent job. Because before I was a bartender. I was a bike messenger. I was a terrible bike messenger. Like, I'm not ballsy. They would just, like those guys. I would.
This message was supposed to get to me 48 hours ago.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm like, I do not care. Like, I'm not gonna kill myself for your dumb package.
Package. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Now they have Amazon. That's like you order it at 8 a.m. It gets you at 5 p.m. at this point. You know.
Right. So I was. I had a lot of different random jobs. So that was a consistent job. I took photo classes at night and on weekends.
Awesome.
And got more and more into it at LaGuardia Community College, which is where I now teach.
Now you teach, so it's full
it's
circle.
Like a farm.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's so cool. And so I was not, I was 30, like a 31 or something.
I was 31 when I landed this job I have now, and it's the best job I've had, the highest paying job I've had, because it's just, I didn't really want to work retail and then like hustle, still hustling to make films, but like films cost money. So
what's your job?
So I am a videographer and writer for this company that produces cigar content.
Oh, cool.
So people love cigars.
Yes,
for JR Cigars. For other publications under our company. So I have a job in the field and to something I went to school for.
Yeah.
I'm doing photography, I'm doing videography, and I'm writing more, which I love writing. So I'm able to tap into like more creative stuff with writing.
That's excellent.
And all that. Yeah. So, but it's tough to write about cigars and tobacco. Like if you kind of find the history of anything, then that's where you're like, oh, this is awesome to really research and write about.
Yeah.
But if you're just writing about like flavor notes of a cigar, it's not bad. It just gets very repetitive.
Sure.
So it's each piece I try to write. I try to put my personality into it.
Right.
And we have this, like, we work with this agency that kind of like works for like SEO purposes. SEO is like search engine optimization. So keywords that you Google, and everyone Googles. We work with them, and they're able to like really beef it up and help us out. But I'm still waiting for the day where I can be a full-time actor, full-time director, or writer. Or maybe full-time actor. Yeah.
But the fact that you love your job is
I think that
wonderful. It makes a huge difference.
The day, it makes everything go by so I can enjoy the weekends, whether I am filming, whether I can go away. Like I said, when I was working retail, which is extremely inconsistent, you mentioned bartending. I'm sure your only free time is the weekends. And I mean, your busy time is the weekends. Yeah. And your free time's like Monday, Tuesday. Yeah. So you're just like, you want something
tired.
Different. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So,
and it's very repetitive. Yeah.
And then you deal with a lot of assholes.
It's also like physically exhausting. Like I used to be able to like.
You're on your feet the entire time.
Move kegs around. Yeah. And like, no way could I do that now.
Yeah. No, it's especially when you're on your feet for 10, 12 hours. Yeah. It's going to crush you. So.
Right.
But yeah, going back to what I initially asked you, the sea that surrounds us.
Yes.
Can you kind of expand upon like what gave you this idea to document your husband? And what's your husband's name?
Paul.
Paul.
Yeah.
Can I use his name?
Yeah, of course.
All right. What gave you the idea to document Paul's depression?
Yeah. First of all, I think it's so nice that you ask that.
What?
You're like, can I use his name?
Yeah, well, no, I don't want to like just like, oh, like I don't want to, because like I said, I don't know. We're talking about him, like he's a subject,
right?
And he's not
it's
here.
It's for the best that he went out.
Okay.
Because wouldn't that be weird if he was just
sitting there just staring at me like you're asking about me and you're not even gonna ask me? I'm like, yeah, and I only brought 2 mics like an idiot. So, but yeah, so what spurred you to be like, I'm going to create art in this time, not verses, but like, I don't know if he was seeking help at the time. So you're like, oh, maybe this is an idea to kind of help him through it? Was he seeking help at the time, or was he just kind of dealing it on his own? And then you were like, I'm gonna just fucking I'm gonna shoot this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna document this, so to speak.
Well, I didn't have any kind of grand plan. I mean, I never do with all my photo projects. It sort of starts in
because I'm very like OCD about like
really?
when I'm writing before I even write the script. I have an outline of what I'm gonna write, which wastes all my energy and time. So you're just shooting a bunch of stuff, and then you look back at your are they called dailies or what are they called? Like your footage. What do you call them back? In film they're called dailies. Like you look back. But you look back at your, I guess, raw photos, and then you start piecing stuff together?
Well, so for him, he was seeking help. He was in therapy, and he started to go to therapy. And it was something his depression was something we talked about all the time. It was like what we talked about for.
Did you ever get upset that he was so depressed? Like really, like did it ever like one day were you ever like, because I think everyone goes through this and. I think people say snap out of it. And it's something that I've learned that you can't fucking snap out of.
I was, I would get frustrated with him for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I thought, wow, you have so many good things. You're educated and you have family who loves you and you have all these wonderful things and friends. But the thing is...
Yeah, me, like, no, that's how it always is, especially when you're dating someone like, I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
And when I hear that, sometimes I'm like, in one ear out the other. You know?
Well, I don't think that they're in a place to he was and you have been in a place to hear that, and you could be the richest person in the world with the most amazing life and it doesn't matter. You're depressed.
Yeah.
And so none of that stuff, it's not like a logical thing. And so I was frustrated at times, but I ended up learning a lot about depression. So I just started photographing him and us. And then I also, and a lot of the landscapes come from this place, Block Island, Rhode Island, which is about 3 hours away. Ooh. This nice little island.
Yeah, Block Island?
Yeah, Block Island.
I'm going to have to visit that.
So I made a book.
I'll drive to go there, yeah. Yeah, I see on your website you have books.
I do, but I don't have, I'm sorry, I don't have an example of that.
All right.
So I lived on Block Island for a year when I was in third grade with my father. My parents were separating.
Same.
So it was a very lonely time.
So you went to Block Island with your father, and you said third or fourth grade?
Yeah, third grade.
Okay.
So, and my mother stayed here in the city. They were separated, and they were like trying it out.
You were born and raised in
born and raised.
Manhattan or Brooklyn?
Manhattan.
Manhattan.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're all right.
Yeah.
I always wish I grew up in the city. When my parents were like, oh, if we were still together, we were going to move. Like, we'd always go into the city, and my dad would be like, we were going to live here. And my sister's like, why would you tell me that? Like, I wish I was a city kid, like, I wish I was a city kid. But where we grew up on Lake Apacon, New Jersey, and never know if you heard of it.
Where, I haven't. Where is it?
It's like West Jersey, like near Pennsylvania.
Okay. That's very beautiful over there.
It is. And we grew up on a dead end. And I feel like if you grow up on a dead end, like your imagination kind of runs wild because there's nothing going on.
Yeah.
And like the summertime is extremely busy, but spring, fall, winter is dead because it's like it's a hot spot for vacation.
Right.
So getting back to you. So your mother lived in the city.
My mother lived in the city.
And your father moved there, was living there, you
said? Yeah, moved there for a year, and I lived with him.
For that year?
For that year. And so Block Island looks like, there's a lot of, it looks very windswept, especially in the winter months. And it's a very, it's in the summer, there's like thousands and thousands of people there.
Yep.
But in the winter, there's probably, at the time, there's only 250 people who live there.
Have you ever been to Maine?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love Maine. I absolutely love Maine. My grandparents lived up there, and it's like my place to go and kind of like recharge the batteries.
Yeah.
I exactly know what you're saying, how like anytime out of the summer, like any other season, it feels very empty and lonely.
Yeah.
Not lonely, but you know what I'm saying, like very empty,
it did feel lonely. Yeah, absolutely. The absence, it's like a sort of a, summer vacation getaway. Yeah. So when that is not there, it feels particularly absent with people. And so when I was there with my father in third grade, his loneliness was very evident to me. And so I felt it was just a sad time. But it's a very beautiful place.
Yeah.
It looks like an Edward Hopper painting.
Yeah.
That's it's like
funny.
the long grass.
Yes.
And it's very windy, and there's it's an island.
Yeah.
And it's about a half an hour from the mainland, from Rhode Island. So it feels very isolated. And so I returned there. I just went for, a few times to photograph. And my husband stayed here in Brooklyn, and I went out there to photograph and sort of think about him and us and what was happening and him being depressed. And I made a lot of photos because I, of course, remembered I'd been here in third grade, and I was feeling, my parents. It
brought you back probably to a point where, especially if you're saying your father was very lonely out there.
Yeah, and I was worried about our marriage, and so I went back to a place when my parents' marriage was dissolving or was in a tenuous place.
That's very interesting.
So I went back.
So like, I guess subconsciously that happened, right? Or were you very aware of like, okay, this is a place where at the time my parents' relationship was very tumultuous. I'm going to kind of go there to think about my relationship now.
Yeah, that was purposeful.
That was purposeful.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
to be that aware is.
Well, in third grade, I was just, when you're in third grade, you're just kind of.
No, I'm talking about like when you went back to do photos. That's extremely aware to be like, holy shit, no, because most people are not. It's either you're very aware and you do it, or you're doing it like it's drawing me to go here for some reason,
Right. No, I felt like maybe it would help me.
Okay.
And there's something about being on an island. You have there's a natural parameter, right?
Yeah.
So you can only be there. And so I walked and walked and walked and photographed, and it was wonderful. But it was a very sad time. Yeah. And I definitely, you asked a question, and I just want to address it. Because there's only 13 there's not that many pictures in that series.
Yeah, I'm getting. It was.
But I probably took hundreds and hundreds.
You're just saying, you answered one of my questions. Yeah, so I asked, there was about 13 photos in total, and how many photos did you take, if you can remember?
Definitely hundreds and hundreds, because I went back there. I went there a bunch of times.
So why'd you choose those specific 13? Like, what were about those 13 photos that you were like, this is going to represent this piece?
That's a good question. Part of the really difficult thing about photography that I find so difficult is editing.
Yeah.
So you have an idea and you have many photos, and I'm sure you experience it with filmmaking as well, getting it down to the bare essentials.
Trimming the fat, they call it, you know. Some people use like, it's like killing your babies, which is a really weird demonic fucking term.
Yeah.
But it's like, I say trimming the fat.
You could say kill your darlings.
Yeah, there you go. Kill your darlings. Okay,
that's a little better.
There's no
that's
reason
still a little bit
there's absolutely no reason to kill babies.
Yeah, or your darlings.
Or your darlings. So trim the fat. Let's just call it that, because that's positive.
Yeah. So it was a long process of getting it down to those 13.
Did Paul help you with that?
Yes, he did. Yeah. And in the book, there's actually more than 13. There might be like 20 or something.
Cool. I saw online. I was counting. I was going based off your website.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a lot of pictures on the website. Okay. Just because with all the projects, I just have sort of not that many. But the book has maybe 20 pictures.
Nice. That's still though. Out of hundreds of photos, that's still not a lot to,
But, as you're going along photographing, and then time is, the project is changing and morphing because he's changing and I'm observing him and I'm also photographing him. So I photographed the island, Block Island, but also him a lot. And so it started to change. And so that also affects the editing.
Yes.
And if you notice that in the beginning, his hair is very short, and then it grows very long, and it grows a beard. And I love that. And that was not intentional. It just,
but that was over the years. Yeah.
It was over years. So it shows like time passing.
Yeah. And he's still dealing with it, you know? How did Paul feel about the project? Like, was he immediately for it?
No.
Okay.
He was very trepidatious and didn't like to. He never likes to be in the spotlight. It makes him very uncomfortable, which is why even if you had brought a third mic, he would not to be part of this conversation. He's
like a cat, just like kind of lurking and be like, you know what? Like, I'll keep my safe distance.
Yeah. So he never likes being in the spotlight. It would have made him uncomfortable. So he wasn't really interested in it in the beginning. But I think he saw that what a delicate place we were in and what a delicate place he was in. And so that he saw that this was helping us because we ended up collaborating.
Yeah.
So I would say, okay, can you do this? Can you get in the water? Can you come out of the water? Can you swim? Can you... we would collaborate.
Nice.
Yeah, okay. I know there's a few water pictures in there.
So after you collaborated with him and made this project, did it bring you guys closer? Absolutely.
Which was another outcome that I didn't expect. When you go into a project, you don't know what's going to happen. And that's kind of the thrill of it, but it's also terrifying.
Yeah.
Because you don't know, is this worth my time? What's going to come out of this? And the fact that we became a lot closer was pretty extraordinary.
Did he thank you for it, or did he, was he, because you said in the beginning, he was like, I don't want to be in the spotlight. I don't know how I feel about this.
Yeah.
Was there any moment where he was kind of just like, thank you. Like I needed this for myself. Does he ever go back and look at it if he's feeling down, like anything like that?
I don't think he's, I think it's definitely implied the gratefulness that we ended up, working on this project together and that it helped us. And one of the things that happened was that it was when he was feeling so depressed, the words were tough. It was very hard for him to express himself. So the photos kind of helped instead of words. Like it helped to fill in the blanks.
Yeah, that actually leads to my next question about, on the surface to the naked eye, I don't think a lot of people can really tell, can really pinpoint depression. It really depends on if someone for years and they're acting a lot different. Mm-hmm. But like I said, we just met. If I didn't tell you hey, yeah, I'm a very sad, upset individual, and I try to not portray that every place I go because no one really wants to be around sad people. You probably wouldn't know that because I'm very talkative. I'm very, I'm doing all that, but there's a lot underneath the surface. So to the naked eye, I don't think anyone can identify what depression is. So how difficult was it for you to capture what depression looks like, in quotes, through the lens of a camera?
Mm-hmm. So if you had said, okay, you are tasked with this job, you're going to go photograph depression, I would be like, deer in headlights, right? Yeah. How do I even begin to do that? But because he and I have been together a long time. We've been together since 97. Wow. And then we got married in 2005.
Okay.
So we've been together a long time.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So I knew him really well. And when I started photographing him, it felt like I couldn't tap through anymore. Like I couldn't break through. There was something happening and I couldn't access him. And so by taking photos, I was trying to learn about what was happening with him. And so sometimes he would be irritated because I'm photographing him and maybe he's brushing his teeth or in the bath.
That one photo
there's a lot of pictures
was very interesting of you. Yeah, you're in the frame, you're taking the photo and he's brushing his teeth.
Yeah.
And he's not looking in the mirror at you. Yeah. He's kind of in his own world.
Yeah, very much.
I think that was one of the photos. All the photos of him I tried to really dissect more because it was, of a person.
Yeah.
And then it would go to a field or an ocean and you're like, oh, that's where I felt I've looked at him and then I scrolled down. I was like, oh shit, that's where I felt, felt it the most. So was he irritated? If it would be him cooking or those are the boundaries you pushed, right? Being there all the time. So that I'm guessing that really made him upset.
Well, he's such he's a very kind, mellow person. It takes him a lot to get upset. So he didn't get upset, but I could tell that it was, it's difficult. He didn't want to be the center of attention.
Yeah.
He felt, like I was giving him putting him under a microscope.
Yeah, I'm sure. And he's I'm just trying to brush my teeth.
Right. And there were other pictures there was a picture of him in the bath. There were all these pictures from that one scene, and that was the best one. And that's the thing why I find it necessary to make many images, and then you find the one that really speaks to what it is that you're trying to say.
Well, the one where he's laying on the bed and the light's coming through.
Yeah.
I was kind of confused by that photo because he seemed very like at peace, or like I don't know who he is, but I felt like I knew like it's just him waking up. I don't even know what time of day it was, but it was just kind of like him waking up and just like, he wasn't smiling in the photo, but he just did seem content.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting, but...
Yeah, I'm glad you thought that.
Yeah.
Because I also wanted to show the intimacy.
Yes.
Too, that it's not like the person is depressed 24/7. It gets like, they're depressed, but then there's all these moments of beauty and closeness and intimacy.
Because I'd have to look back at it. Like I said, I don't think he's smiling.
I know exactly.
I don't even think there's a smirk, but it's just more so like, I think the way he's looking content. At you, he looks very like, because I think it's silly. This might be a weird comment. There's very like, I've had some very real moments laying in the bed in the morning with my wife. Like some of the realest moments I've ever had in my life. Yeah. And I don't know why it only happens in the bed. Yeah. Like in the bedroom and in the bed. Yeah. Like where it's in the morning or it's either at night. Yeah. Like I felt my daughter kick for the first time the other night, and I just ended up crying. Aww. And I was just, because for weeks she's been like, try to feel her, and I haven't. Yeah. And
that is really
but like there's just been a lot of like intimate moments in the bedroom. And I'm not saying it like I'm not trying to be a perv or anything like that. I'm just saying like a lot of conversations. Right. Like a lot of like deep like, what the fuck am I going to do with my life? I'm going to keep cursing. You seem like you you can curse. Yeah. You seem very like calm and all that. But like what is going on with my life? Like even in like, not even in the bed, but like there'd be times where I would go over to my wife's place before we were married, and I'd sit there and be like, man, I got like $50 to my name. Like how am I going to get through this? So the bedroom is a very intimate place, and I felt like that was in the bedroom, right? Yeah. All right. I don't, if it wasn't, all this rambling was for naught. But yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like it seemed like it was a very like you saw something there, and you're like, stay, and then you took a bunch of photos, and I think it came off that way. Like that's how I interpreted it, and everyone's going to interpret differently, right? That's the beauty. I'm going to talk to the audience. I do encourage you to go check it out. Check out your website in the series, obviously, because it's, like I said, 6 years later, it still lives like rent free in my head. I love it.
Wonderful. Thank you.
That's no problem.
Really amazing. I think what you were saying, I wanted to speak to the bed stuff. There is this intimacy and a letting down of walls and this vulnerability.
If you're with the one you love, like not like, I'm not like one night stands and shit aren't for me anyway necessarily aren't that like, you've been with your husband almost about 25 years. Yeah. Right? Yeah. My math's correct. Yeah. So there's a lot of history there. A lot of history. I'm with my wife 6 years. Right. I still feel like it feels like it's been a lifetime, not in a bad way. It's just like, man, like 6 years has felt
so much has happened.
Yeah. Like her and I've been through a lot. Yeah. And I think that maybe that's why if we didn't go through a lot with one another, maybe it wouldn't feel that way. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's just like you said, like that intimacy. I cut you off. So what were you,
No. It's just the vulnerability and the intimacy is something I'm interested in with him, and also with my other projects too, which in a way it's kind of interesting because the other projects that I've done, I didn't know the people I was becoming close with or the communities, but with him, and I got close to them through photographing and talking with them. And then with him, I did know him, but I didn't understand what was happening with him. So I used the camera to try to access him and get closer.
What was the piece on your website where if I'm wrong, please correct me. Oh, yeah. I think you were on a marijuana field.
Yeah, a marijuana farm.
A marijuana farm? Where was that?
It's called Meet Me in the Green Glen.
Yeah. Where was that?
In Northern California.
Okay. I just visited my buddy there.
Oh, nice.
In Mendocino County. Mm-hmm. One of my best friends. And I just went out there to kind of like, before like a lot of stuff changes. I did ask my wife. Everyone's like, oh, you got to ask permission. It's not permission. I'm just like, hey, you're pregnant. Mm-hmm. I want to make sure you're okay if I go for a week to hang with my one of my oldest friends. And it was interesting out there. Like I smoke. it's not a secret to anyone who knows me. And it's just so different out there because it's such the norm, Here it's really not.
Mm-hmm.
But how was that? Like, did you go out there to shoot that, or were you out there like living or vacation, and you were like what was? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure.
Yeah.
I was out there for a wedding, me and Paul.
Yeah.
And I met this guy, and he was drinking a beer. And he was in like a clothing store.
Yeah.
And I was bartending at the time, and it was, it was summer, and I was dying without a brim hat.
Uh-huh.
It was an outdoor bar, and you get sunburned. So I went into the skate shop, and I was like, oh, they have hats. So I was going to buy a hat.
You were bartending at a wedding?
I was bartending in New York.
Oh, in New York.
And went to a wedding in California. Sorry, I didn't make it clear.
No. I was just trying to. Yeah, okay. No, I was trying to piece
So I
it
was there
together.
on vacation, essentially.
Nice.
And I went into a store, and there was a guy drinking like a tall boy of beer at like 3 p.m, like in a clothing store. And I was like, hey!
This is Where in Northern California were you?
It was in Lake County.
Okay.
Which is 2 hours north of Sacramento.
Oh, so all right, yeah. I was in 2 hours north of San Francisco.
Okay.
In the Redwoods and Willits.
Okay.
So I don't know where that is. Oh, further east. Okay,
so
but probably the same.
Yeah.
Is it the same? I guess parallel.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, you're up. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So someone's having a tall boy.
Someone's having a tall boy.
In the middle of the afternoon.
Rough. And I just started talking to him. I was like, wow, this guy, like, what is he up to?
Yeah.
Where's the party? And so I started teasing him, and then he started teasing me back, and I had the camera on me, which I often do. And I know that it will attract people or repel people. Because some people are like, oh my God, I don't want to.
Well, it also depends on your personality and maybe the vibe you're putting off. Yeah. If you're putting off like weird, like if someone
creepy vibes.
I mean, like, let's just say if he just drinks and you went up to him, took a photo and left.
Yeah.
You're like, what the, like, you actually were talking with him, joking around with him, and then I'm sure you were like, do you mind if I take your photo?
Yeah.
You didn't just come in and be like...
He actually didn't let me take the
first.
photo. No.
Okay.
But he told me all about... He said, oh, yeah, I'm a tree farmer, wink, wink. And I was like, interesting. I would love to come and see these trees.
Yeah.
I'm doing quotes for the audience. So he was like, yeah, come tomorrow. And I was like, great. So... he was willing to show off his farm. He was so into it because I was an outsider.
But what about the people who were
working there?
Were they open to it?
Well, I didn't photograph that first visit. I just had the camera on me, but I didn't photograph.
Oh, okay.
So
all
it's
right.
like people are getting used to me.
Yeah.
And he was the owner. He was the boss. So if he's bringing someone around, they're all like, well, this person must be fine.
Yeah.
So that was how I met him. And he let me take like late. I spent pretty much all day there. Later on in the day, he let me take photos of the fields, but it was June, so there was hardly any plants to speak of because it's all outside, so they were tiny. So they get really big in October. This is early summer, and I took some photos. Came back to New York. We stayed in touch on the phone, and I was like, I'd really love to come out and photograph you, but I can't travel 3,000 miles and get out there. And you say no. And he thought about it for a while, and he said okay.
Wow, so you went back out there?
So I went back out there, and I ended up going back out there like maybe 10 times over the course of 9 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, so he's like a friend.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we got very close, and I photographed his whole life.
Do you still talk to him?
He actually passed away.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
Sad. No,
no.
He passed away in 2017. He was 67.
Okay.
So I mean, that seems young to me, but he's not young. But he is young, and
I think the older you get, it seems like my dad just turned 70 in September, and I'm like, what the fuck? Damn, like 70 sounds older, but he doesn't act it. You know?
That's not that old. I don't think. I mean, my stepfather's 92, and my parents, my mother and father, are 83 and 85.
Yeah.
So to me, that 67 feels young.
Yeah.
And 83, 91, it's like they've had a long.
Yeah, my grandmother, all my grandparents this year are going to be turning 90.
Wow.
And they've been
Look at
around.
you have great genes.
Yeah, we do. And I'm crossing my fingers that when my daughter's born in July or in the summer, my grandparents get to see her, get to take some photos, and
definitely,
and really, because that's 4 generations.
You've got to do those photos.
Yeah, that's wild. So
that's totally wild.
But yeah, no, I've, and please interject with
Sure.
anything that you may have seen.
Yeah.
I have never seen photos go so hand in hand with mental health or depression. Honestly, I really haven't. Maybe you could talk about maybe some of your inspiration.
Sure.
Do you plan on doing another series like this, or do you have any other projects that deal with mental illness, like in your catalog or anything moving, moving forward?
Right. Well, thank you so much for saying that first part of what you said, because I never, when I was making this project, first of all, it sort of was, I didn't have a grand idea. Like I said, I just started photographing Paul, and then I went to Block Island, and then it went on and on and on. I continued photographing, and it sort of started to take shape. And I was making the project for he and I never thought that other people would like it so much, or that it would resonate so much.
I don't know why you wouldn't think that, honestly. What was not to cut you off again, no. I feel like that's all I'm doing. When this made its rounds, what has been the success of that?
That's what I wanted to tell you.
Go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. No.
I feel like I'm interrupting you. You're like, I'm never going to invite this fucking guy over again. Because like I said, I'm just excited to be around a really good photographer who has been able to. You were able to capture, I don't know. I think, like I said earlier, 6 years ago I was 30 or I was 28.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm 34.
Yeah.
I took the series way different in those 6 years.
Isn't that interesting?
And it would be interesting to maybe go back and look at it when I'm 40.
Yes, right.
And be like,
have a different
perspective on life.
Absolutely.
I'm trying my hardest without meds and medication to be a happier person.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what has been... So you released it in 2016.
So 2016.
And you've been taking photos since what, 2010 for this series? Or?
For this, 2010.
That's what I love about photography, really quickly. Sorry.
Yeah.
With film, if you have to put it in a festival, it has to be made within the last 2 years.
Oh.
You could take photos from your childhood, from your teens, and make a collection of all right, this is Maureen Drennan.
Yeah.
And it could be your masterpiece from when you were a child to or when you were a kid taking photos.
Right.
Until that. So so this was released in 2016.
2016
and no, go ahead.
And this woman named Ellen Kale reached out to me, and she works for Feature Shoot magazine, which is an online magazine. And she said, I really I saw your website. Okay. And I really love this project. I'd love to. She asked me a lot of questions that were very difficult. And so.
What were some of them? Were they personal you're talking about, or were they?
Well, so when she reached out to me in 2016, I was not. I hadn't talked about the project with anyone except for Paul, and then friends.
You just put the project online, on your website. You said
I put it on my website, and
you were just if people come across it, it's great.
Yeah, and okay. There's actually another thing that happened. I was interviewed in maybe it was 2016. Maybe it was 2014 by this magazine called American Photo, which it was also online. And so the woman asked me about the project, but it wasn't really done yet. So it was in progress, and it was put out into the world. Yeah. And it was thrilling, but it just it didn't get a ton of responses, which is fine. It happens often. That's fine. And then, but this other time, I don't know what it was exactly, but so you asked, the questions were hard. They were difficult because they were probing, and they were, I hadn't talked about the work so in depth, I guess. That's the best way I can explain it. So she published it online, and then the Huffington Post reached out to me, and they said, we saw this article on Feature Shoot. We would like to feature it. I was like, sure. And they also asked their own questions, and I answered them. And then that went crazy, viral. And since then, I've gotten so many emails from people who have experienced mental depression.
Crazy people who are like, hey, let me work with you on this,
Well,
but that's great that people actually reached out to you and were like, what you did made a difference in my life. That must make you feel like just over the moon. I
Oh
would
yeah.
assume.
I mean, I was just blown away by the response. I had no idea that it would affect people in this way. I also got a lot of angry emails.
Do you want to talk about that?
Sure.
Right,
I mean,
cool.
I was surprised.
So angry from...
People thought that I was exploiting Paul.
Okay.
And then also, the comments on, often when something's published online, there's comments.
Always.
And there are so many trolls out there. I mean, people said mean stuff.
About Paul.
About Paul, about me. And it's like,
I don't get it.
What is wrong with you? Because you think about, when you write a post, when you comment, you've got to sign in, right? And then write your post.
Yeah.
And then sign out. It's like, it's work. You know what I mean? It's not like giving someone the finger when they like blow by you in a red light or something. It's like, wow, you really worked hard. And so shit. I think you're kind of pathetic. So yeah, people made fun of the way we look. People made fun of like the stupidest shit, like so dumb. But I think it's kind of medieval sometimes. People just start throwing tomatoes and then it gets crazy. I'm sure you've seen that like in posts.
With my work, people comment on my appearance, on how I need to dress better.
See, that's
they
just
comment
crazy.
on the guy who's like the face of JR videos. He lost like 70 pounds, but like before that, they were like make comments on his weight, I would delete it.
That is fucking ridiculous.
Yes. I mean, I put like, I'll put my work, like my acting reel, my directing reel, some of my projects on YouTube, and I don't face criticism that well.
I mean, who does?
I think people take criticism very well.
Yeah.
I think they hide it well. If someone says like, "Oh, I didn't like your movie, I didn't like your film," I don't know how anyone could be like, "All right, word, your opinion doesn't matter."
Mm-hmm.
Me, I want to know why.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know why you guys didn't like it,
Mm-hmm.
And I get, throughout this podcast, I've been talking about imposter syndrome a lot. And I feel like I don't belong.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like people are just saying my work is great because they just have to say it. Like my mom, my wife, my friends. I don't think anyone would tell me if they didn't like my work,
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell me you don't like my work,
Mm-hmm.
but tell me why.
Yeah.
Tell me
Make
why.
it
Like give me constructive criticism. Don't just be an asshole about it. That's my thing. That really wasn't my cup of tea. Okay, well, I don't know how much I can really take or value your opinion if that's all you have to offer to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I'm really shocked that piece, the sea that surrounds us, got any type of hate because, I mean, I feel like you were just, it's like documenting like a day in a life type of thing, but you were showing like what depression is. So like, were people upset that it was like were people more like, oh, you're exploiting what it really is to be, but it's,
Yeah, I think people thought I was exploiting Paul. And then other people would argue back, well, it was her husband and he agreed. But the thing is, it's about him. So, I mean, people are just crazy.
Yeah,
I don't know.
No, I think people want to. I think people want to.
And it's easy
for the sake of
online to like hide behind insults.
Yeah, like Louis C.K. had a bit where he was like, bullies back in the day were, it took a lot to be a bully because you'd have to make fun of someone, see the pain and agony in their face, and then you'd be like, if you liked that, then you're a real asshole. If you didn't like it, then you'd have to feel it. Now you could type something, close your computer, and go out about your day.
Right.
And I think that, I think that I think that's very true. I don't know. It's a weird thing. I tend to not really pay attention to what anyone has to say about my work, good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be a bad thing. I don't take compliments. I take everything people say with a grain of salt, which, kind of sucks because I wish I could now, then when I go back and I need to pick me up, I'm like, well, I just push that compliment to the side, or I'm like, oh, maybe my wife was just saying that because she loves me, not because she like really thinks it's good work. And that's how I view everyone's compliments.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think that's pretty normal.
Yeah.
But you definitely want to hold on to those compliments because we always have a tendency to hold on to the criticism and the negative.
Always.
And we shouldn't.
Yeah.
We really shouldn't. We got to hold on to those.
We got to have a
because also people
mixture.
Don't say stuff. I mean, sure, the parents, they might say they love it and they might really mean it and they don't have a critical eye, but friends will have a critical eye about your work.
Yeah. Oh, well.
So that's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and if my friends are hearing this who aren't in film, they'll probably be like, well, fuck you, dude. But like some of them have really not watched I don't know if they've watched my work or not.
Yeah.
I'm not one to ever make a film and then send it like in text messages. I'll post it on Facebook. Mm-hmm. I'll post the trailer online or on YouTube, on Instagram.
Yeah.
I'll share it on Facebook, and that's that. I'm not gonna send mass text messages or emails. Like you asked me off air, like, hey, can I see some of your work? And I was like, oh yeah, maybe I should have done that.
That's okay.
Like I'm not just
we can do it after.
I'm not just a podcaster.
It'll be better
I'm not
anyway,
just this.
on
Yeah,
the weekends,
yeah, exactly. Like I'm not
work
just a
week is
podcaster.
done.
I'm not just this. Like I'm more than what I'm projecting to be, I guess. You know what I'm saying?
Of course. And
that's where my belief in myself doesn't come in, where I'm like, I ain't shit. Like, and I have that. I tell people all the time. I either think I am the best actor, filmmaker in New Jersey on a Monday, and on Tuesday I'm like, I am dog shit. And I think that's just art, or not art. I think that's just being an artist, because I think artists have, and I'm not saying it in a negative way, but very thick skin because of just how emotional we have to be. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know if you kind of feel that way as a photographer. Do you do any other forms of art besides photography?
No. Photography's it.
Okay.
I mean, I'm learning how to play the violin, but the fiddle, but that doesn't.
Some people are like, I'm learning to play the keyboard. You're like, nope, straight up violin.
So no, just photography.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But
do
you feel like very hypersensitive as a photographer?
Oh yeah. I mean, I have feelings of
like when you release a project, are you like, oh my god, like freaking out, or you like what's how's that?
During the project, I think it's no good and it's worthless, and why would anyone care?
I haven't felt that way about this podcast yet.
Good.
I'm waiting until I'm like, this ain't normal. Shit, and no one's gonna maybe when I'm editing this and I have them ready to go, I'm like, no one's going to listen to this, or if it only gets 4 likes somewhere, like something like that. But I don't know, this project to me might be a little bit different. I don't want to talk about myself, but it might be a little bit different because, for yours was your episode's a little bit different. Like I'm talking about your project. For the most part, I gave artists like, hey, here are topics. Mm-hmm. Let me know what you want to talk about. So every artist comes on, every topic that we're talking about is essentially what they chose to talk about.
Interesting.
So I think it's a different perspective of like, this is very therapeutic, and it's very therapeutic for them. Mm-hmm. So it's a little different where I'm not like, oh, this sucks. It's more so like, no, like this is more intimate and and I'm going to try my hardest for it not to suck. You kept thanking me thanking you for coming out to you to do this. Yeah. No, like you're doing me a great service of like being on here and we're in your safe space. I think that's important. If I brought people to my apartment, or if
it would be a different dynamic. Yes. That's for sure.
Yeah, because it's still a little. Not I wouldn't say odd, but it's like, all right, I'm going into their space. For you.
Well,
kind of, but like the way you what?
What if I was?
What if you were
or any other artist?
Yeah, I mean, I would have been like, like I'm mainly it's split between. I think I'm doing more virtual than in person.
Oh, okay.
And you're the first artist I've met in person that I really didn't know.
Okay.
I knew everyone else, but you didn't really give off like
weird
creep fucking
That's
vibe.
Good.
Like
That's
if
good.
I walked in and there was like no lights and like you had artwork of like, okay, yeah, maybe I'm, or if I went to the bathroom and I came out and you like disappeared, I was like, oh shit, like. This is how I'm gonna go out, but no, I also try to, and it's weird, like not to talk about anything, not to just be weird about it, but like it might be weird for like, okay, I'm a big dude, I don't ever want to come off threatening,
right? Yeah.
We just live it like I have a sister who I'm extremely close with,
Yeah.
And this doesn't have to do much with art, but when she was in college, she would walk with keys in between her in her hands. I was like, what the fuck you doing? She's like, dude, I'm a woman living in Jersey City by myself.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, these are things men don't talk about.
Right.
So for artists that I don't really know, such as yourself, to invite like a guy, like that's why you have to try to be like, you know, I know deep down I am not a fucking weirdo or a creep.
Right.
But strangers don't know that, you know? So that's why I make the offer, like we can do it virtual because of COVID, or I can meet at your place if it's not too weird to do, because like I said, the subject that we're all talking about is very intense. And to come into my apartment with my crazy ass puppy and being up and being all that, like, like okay, I don't know what's going on, you know? I think you're right. I think like I could see just looking around, I know there's no pictures, you could tell like this is such a very warm, inviting place.
That's great. I'm
so you're
glad.
like, okay, let's talk about. This is the first podcast we're doing on couches. Everything else has been on a table, like in a stand, and very like professional. I'm very relaxed.
That's good.
First podcast I'm having a beer during, actually. So
that's great. How is that beer? I haven't had that
good.
kind yet.
What is it? It is the Grim.
I have no idea if it's like too
Schwarzbier style black lager. I mean,
it's kind of like heavy. Okay, because
beer just makes me sweat.
Okay,
if that's why you're asking, it gets my face red. But beer just gets,
you know,
like that.
I couldn't tell because you can't see it. If it's like too dark.
I love stouts and darker beer. It's a black lager, so it kind of is more on the stout side. But I love darker beers.
Oh, good. All right.
But I think these episodes have to be more. People have to be relaxed. Like I said, I've gone to Long Island for an episode. I've gone to Philadelphia, and it's, you know, my wife, you know, like I said, she jokes. She's like, yeah, you know, you've dedicated a lot of time to this. I've missed a lot of you, but like I tell her, like, this is why I'm doing it. She understands completely.
That's amazing, and she's so supportive.
She's
excellent.
I mean, I've had exes who were like, you're never gonna make it. You're never going to do film. Like, you're never going to, like, oh, you're not in college? You're working full time? What are you doing with your life? She's never once been like, why are you wasting your time with film? She's been like, go to that set, go to that festival, go to that networking event.
Yeah.
You know, for Christmas, she bought me this equipment. So
really?
she wants producing credit. Not going to give it to her. No, but she believed in she believed in it as much. So she was like, and we had a budget, and she like found something, and it was really like that's a part of it too. It's like, man, people believe in you enough to invest in your projects.
Yeah.
Like, but you know, you don't want to disappoint anyone. You know?
Yeah. That is incredible that you are with someone who is so supportive, because the other people, you know, what you said that they said is just, unfortunately, it's so normal, but it's awful. And where are they now? And what are they doing that's so great?
I don't really care.
Yeah.
You know? But you're right. Yeah. Like, what are they? But they're in their own version of what's happy or what's their happiness, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's all like, you know, I don't know if we said it on air or off, but, you know, Paul is a painter. So I think it's nice that you both get to be an artist and all that. And, you know, there's times I write a script and my wife's the first person I give it to. I don't give it to a buddy of mine. I give it to her. We'll read it out loud. And she'll give me her honest opinion if she's not too, you know, tired, honestly, you know, 'cause she just works a lot. But she'll give me her honest opinion. She'll be like, I don't like that this has no ending. I don't like that but I like that. You know, if she laughs during something that's where she's supposed to laugh, that makes me feel good. You know? So last question. Do you have anything coming up this year that you're working on that will be out anytime soon? And do you have any other projects, I guess, you know, I know it's a broad question, but like are going to be geared towards like mental health? I know you said like while you were shooting The Sea That Surrounds Us, maybe that wasn't your initial intention or it was, but do you have anything else that you would like to tackle as far as like mental health issues, feeling alone and all that? Because your photos are very real. Like the last question I asked, like it feels like almost a half hour ago, but it was basically like you were able to portray depression really well. You see a lot of like, you know, illustrated like graphic photos, if that makes sense, like cartoon versions of feeling alone, but never as like real time photography.
Yeah.
So do you have anything else that you know, any other projects you want, promote, please promote anything you have coming out in the next year or two. And do you plan on doing another thing that does touch on any mental health topics?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, as we're talking, how much photography is therapeutic for me, because my process is I go out for a walk and I'm out and about and I photograph and I talk to people, and as I'm photographing and as I'll read things that will inspire me, so I might go to a particular area and I'll photograph that, or I'll go to visit a certain kind of person and then photograph them, and so it's very it really is enriching for me. So I'm connecting with people. I connect with strangers a lot, and I love that. And I think it satisfies maybe some kind of loneliness that I have, and that I think we all have. I don't think I'm special in that way. I think we're all kind of, we all might have that.
I don't know. I this is more of a pessimistic. This is Chris Orangeo's view, because I'm pessimistic. I'm not trying to be like, look at me, but it's my view. I think most people are very lonely, and then people mask it with, pushing it down and not dealing with it.
Yeah.
But when you deal with it, or you tell people like, I am really not happy, and then they hit you with like, well, it's life. It is what it is. That's a big turnoff for me, But yeah, I think if you go out and you take photos of strangers and you're able to capture them maybe in their element, I think that could be very powerful.
There's a poem that I was thinking about a lot when I was doing this project, and I couldn't remember the title of it. So I wanted to, I'll send it to you, but I think that you might like it because I think it talks about mental health. Okay, so it's called Romanesque Arches by this guy Thomas Trans-Traumer. I don't know where he's from, but I'll send it to you. He died in 2015. He lived a long time, 31, 2015. So basically, it's about how all humans have vaults and vaults and vaults inside them that go endlessly, and that we'll never truly understand ourselves or each other, but that's not a bad thing. It's how it's meant to be.
Yeah. I mean, I think
I'll send it to you. I think you might like it. Yeah.
I think, I'll definitely give it a read. I think,
And I think about that when I was photographing Paul, and how there's just arches and vaults, and I'll never really understand, but maybe that's okay. Maybe that's fine.
I mean, it's so interesting that what you just kind of described, how you described that poem of, it's okay to not be able to understand what everyone's going through, right? Right? You were saying, or the layers of who we are, we are contained of so many different things. Yes, yeah.
And we might never truly understand ourselves, but that's okay. It's human. And
do you believe that? Do you believe it's okay to not understand yourself, or because I feel like sometimes it's tough. I kind of got to know who I am.
Well, I think how can we? I don't know. I mean, I think how can we ever completely know ourselves?
Yeah.
Because we are limitless in this wonderful way, even though our body is constrained, right?
Yes.
What goes on in our head is just on and on and on.
No.
So I don't know. I mean, I think it's important I love therapy, and therapy is so helpful for me, and I think for so many people. So in that way, you're getting to know yourself. And
therapy's, I've discovered a lot in therapy, and it's some good, some bad. I kind of, my wife says, I've seen a big difference since you've gone to therapy, and I personally haven't. I don't know.
You
I think
I'm trust her because she's really
she's seeing it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
You know,
You're probably evolving with the therapy. In a positive
I've seen
way.
her change completely. Like she's grown wonders. I think I'm a lot. I don't know, just not angrier, but yeah, I think I'm angry actually because it's like I'm discovering a lot of this stuff that like, and I'm a person who needs answers. Mm-hmm. Like I needed to know why my parents split. Mm-hmm. I bugged the fuck out of them for years, and eventually they both kind of told me. Yeah. Didn't make me feel better. Yeah. But I needed the answer.
Right, so having did the answer help?
Not that situation. Yeah. But, you know, yeah, sometimes I do want the answer, and if I don't get it, then I'm like, it's racking my brain, you know? So I think that's what it is. I want to know why certain things happen. Yeah, yeah. And a lot of things just don't, it happens because it just... Yeah, that's how the world is, you know. So it's just an interesting thing.
I sort of like the ambiguity of poetry, and so the one I sent you, there is sort of, it's not wrapped up tight. Yeah, and I think that aligns sometimes with photography too. That it's not going to be this illustrative picture of like a person crying in the corner, like that's.
Well, that's and to go full circle before we end, to see your piece, to see that surrounds us. What was the title for?
Oh, yeah, I wanted to tell you. Yeah, it's from a Pablo Neruda poem called Night on the Island. Okay. And it's around here someplace. They're love poems that he wrote. And so one of them, Night on the Island, is about this woman that he's with. And he talks about how being in love with someone is sort of like being on an island, in that you're isolated with them, and that can be really wonderful and like romantic, but they are also you're isolated from each other, sort of like two islands.
That's interesting.
So you're isolated, that the ocean separates you, but the ocean also connects you. Yeah. And so I was thinking about that.
Your photos kind of captured the name of it too.
That's wonderful.
The sea that surrounds us, and
so that's from a Pablo Neruda poem. Have you ever read him? He's fantastic.
I'm very uneducated with poetry, unfortunately.
I mean, I'm not really that educated.
I like my Netflix a little too much and movies a little too much, but no,
I'll send you it.
Yeah, please. Yeah, because I would.
It's very descriptive. It's Pablo Neruda. I think for visual people like yourself, you'll really like it. Okay. Yeah.
Pablo Neruda.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Definitely. Yeah.
So you asked about projects.
Yeah.
So the Pop Project, Meet Me in the Green Glen, it came out as a book.
Cool.
Last a year ago, so that's exciting. A little bit under a year ago, and I've been photographing a little bit upstate, and hopefully we'll see where that goes. I'm photographing towns and communities near prisons. There's a lot of prisons in upstate New York. And during COVID, it's been tough to photograph people, but I've gone to places where people gather, like drive-ins. Yeah. And porches. I've met a lot of people on their porches.
Do you, really quickly, what are your thoughts on the Humans of New York project as a photographer?
I don't know that project so well. I mean, I like the idea of it. He's meeting people, he's photographing them.
It just kind of sounds like what you're doing, in the sense of I want to know how much are they like photographing strangers?
I think
like, what's the truth? Are they all strangers? Yeah.
I think. I don't know a whole lot about the Humans of New York.
Okay.
I like he's making this connection with a stranger, and then they write a little bit of text, or he does, or something. So you really get a.
I wonder if it's like they're recording.
Oh, maybe they're recording.
Maybe they're recording, and they're interviewing him, and during the interview. Because how these are, they seem very much like it would be tough. Or maybe, like you said, they write it.
You know, the thing that I've liked what I've seen of Humans of New York, but the thing that doesn't intrigue me is that it seems like it could just last forever. Like he could just do it forever, and it doesn't have like a filmmaker. It doesn't have like an arc. Yeah. And it doesn't have a climax or like an end. It's just. It's almost encyclopedic.
It's on one plane. You're gonna read,
and you're gonna read. Good.
You're gonna read. It seems like a lot of story about loss. A lot of stories are about loss. A lot of people's stories are about loss or like love. Mm-hmm. There's few and far. Like there's very little in there to be like, oh yeah, I used to be this, and this. You know.
Yeah.
And some of them are heartbreaking, you know, but I mean, it just kind of seems like what you're doing, you're taking photos of like.
Mine are always based in I start out in a serendipitous way, and then it turns into a project. Mm-hmm. So it's got a sort of, it's not so amorphous. It always starts out amorphous. But.
Nice. Well, Maureen, sucks that it has to come to an end. I don't even know how it would happen, but I would love to collaborate with you one day on something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would love to meet Paul, because this piece is very interesting. Like I said, I'm probably going to
No.
I'm going to revisit this piece because I think it hits you so differently in life. It just hits you differently. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I know I've said it, this is like my third or fourth time saying it. When I first initially saw it, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, but then I've recently, doing research for this and reading more into it and all that, I was like very moved by it, you know? So I think that's what's so great about
really touching
art. That's really good about art, though. It could be, especially photography, you know?
I'm so glad that it affected you that way. And that here you are, I think because I'm going through,
you know, I've been going through it the past few years. Maybe that's why. But if I'm ever in a happier point in my life, I'll look at it and be like, man, maybe that wasn't so depressed. You know, maybe it wasn't. I would interpret a photo. Exactly.
For sure.
So, but thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no, I don't. You know, like I said, hopefully we can collaborate in one way or the other down the road. And please check out, what's your website?
It's myname.com. So
MaureenDrennan.com.
Yep.
Please check it out. Maybe in our Instagram post of this episode, we'll share some photos.
Yeah, totally.
Of the piece, if that's
absolutely.
If you give me permission. But please check out all of her work on her website. Like you said, you're selling books now of
Meet Me in the Green Glen.
Of Meet Me in the Green Glen, and To See That Surrounds Us, right?
What's that?
What's the other book on there?
See That Surrounds Us.
Yeah, okay, I saw that, which is pretty interesting.
And in later April, there's going to be a show in Philly at this comic book store called Partners and Son. Okay. So I'm going to have some of the weed pictures up there.
Nice. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. This might come out later than April.
Yeah, that's okay. That's right. That's okay.
But that's pretty cool that you're doing art, that you're doing shows, essentially.
Yeah.
You're getting back to doing shows. So, wherever other shows you may have by the time this posts, let me know so we can do that. But thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Once again, this is Where Is My Mind, a podcast about mental health and the arts. I'm host and producer of the podcast, Christopher Orangeo. All episodes will be available on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Radio Public, and Amazon Music. Once again, this is Chris Orangeo, and thank you for supporting.